What's up, everyone? What's happening? Welcome back to Thursday Live. As always, things are nuts right now. Is everything on? Do I have? Okay. I just want to make sure. I did an entire video the other day and I had to redo it because I didn't have the mic on. So I have to check now. So it looks like it's good. Anyway, welcome. So things are still crazy. What I'm trying to do is trying to get everything done for the week of the 18th because I'm heading back to Massachusetts. So in order to do that and actually take a little bit of time off, I'm trying to front load things and get everything done. So basically do everything for that week in advance so that I could just kind of go and see everyone. So that's the plan, but it makes for a really hectic couple of weeks. And so that's why today we'll be working on one of the 543s for that week, for the 18th. So if you're not familiar with the 543s, what those are, it's a small 3x4 black and white painting. And on Facebook, we have a live feed every Monday. And the people in the audience throw out their suggestions for me to paint. So I pick 5 of those suggestions and then I paint those during the week. And then the following Monday, everyone who made a suggestion is put into a hat, and they can choose one of those 5 or any of the 5 or any of the 543s that are up. So that's what we got. So I got a little bit of show and tell, and yeah, I think that's it. So, all right. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure everything's good. I don't know if everything's good. All right, let's switch around. We'll do some show and tell. Number 2, hello. Oh, what's wrong with that? Actually, what is wrong with that? I don't know why that's not working. Try doing that. It's working just a moment ago. Oh, I know why. Do I know why? I don't know why. Oh, there. No, yeah, there we go. I don't know. Maybe the plug is loose or whatever. But anyway, there we go. All right. Let's see. Let me get over here. And see what's going on here. All right. Teresa, what's up? Dan, what's happening? Paul, hello. Franz, what is going on? I'm going to try to get my comments over here so I can actually see you guys live while I'm doing this. Might be a little bit easier. There we go. Okay. That should work. Yeah, that way you don't have to keep turning and looking at the computer and all this stuff. So we'll get to this. This is the 543 little holder. We'll get to that in a second. But let me do a little bit of quick show and tell. I did pin that comment. The code is going on right now. If you're watching this after the fact, that's okay too. The code will run right through January 1st of 23, the beginning of the year, so New Year's Day. So the code is SL22. And it'll give you 30% off everything in the store. So there is your PSA for the day. And it includes the couple things I'm going to show you. But before I show you, well, yeah, let me show you what we got. So we worked on this on the Monday feed. So this here is I didn't clean the box yet, but this here is the holiday ornament. There are actually 10 of these that are available. And they are all signed and numbered. They are all clear coded now. On the Monday feed, they weren't cleared yet, but now they're all ready to go. So this is how they came out. And they are on a piece of 063 aluminum, the thick aluminum. They're all signed and numbered in gold on the back. And like I said, there are only 10 of these for this year. Next year, there'll be another 10, and they'll be green. So every year I'll do a different color. So that's how it came out. So this is House of Color clear on that, Createx platinum on the background, and then it's all Createx. If you want to see how I did this, the Monday night feed, I actually did the green one, not the ornament itself, but the test chief for it. So if you're interested in that, like I said, there are only 10. They're on the site right now, and they come in a little fancy box, and that's what we got. So that is the ornament. Oh, they also, like most original art or all original art, each one comes with a certificate of authenticity too. So it just gives you your number and all the fun stuff. So there's that. This is not for sale, but a huge thanks to Don Johnson for Airbrush the magazine. I was surprised to find out, well, he let me know, but he asked if I was okay if he used Island Creek for the cover of the 100 Artists Special, which he does one of these every year. He picks 100 artists and features them in this, in his, well, it's different than the regular magazine that he has. The regular magazine has how-tos and all that. This is just pages and pages of the submitted art. He said he got 1,500 artists, which is just that's submitted, and it's great. He had to narrow it down to 100. So that's how that went. And like I said, I was blown away to find out that Island Creek, the painting that I did, made the cover. So there is that. Well said, I missed. Dan, what's up? Jesse, what's happening? Paul, what's going on? Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I've known Don for a long time. It's really great being able to kind of see him, kind of do what he does. There's been, there have been a few airbrush magazines around, and he's been consistent all along, and I really like that. So, and his agenda is simple. It's just to get the artist's work out there, which is noble and awesome. So that's Don. Unfortunately, it was nice, but that 100 artist issue actually sold out, which was amazing. So congratulations to Don. The last thing, since I did mention the code, and the code is the only time that I discount original artwork. So if there's an original piece that you were looking at, now is the time, because I really try hard not to have any kind of discounts on the original art just because they are what they are. So this is the, I think I showed this to you guys. This is the 23 Ford blade. So this one is all done and framed, and this is on the site. So even though it's a brand new painting, if you're interested in this, you can get 30% off this painting as well. So it's madness. Total madness. Thank you, Felix. I appreciate that. Yes, please hit that like button if you're new. Welcome. If you're watching this after the fact, welcome too. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because it really helps the channel grow and makes me happy. So, all right, let's get to it. So again, if you missed the very beginning, my little monologue there, I am heading back to Massachusetts on the 18th, 17th, 18th, something like that. I'm still working out the details. So in order to go away and not work while I'm away, because I do 5 of these 543s every single week, I have to do the 5 for that week and the 5 for the week before in advance before I leave. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. So what I've done is I've taken suggestions from people all along, and I keep track of all of them. So what I did was I just started going back in through the old suggestions that I didn't use, and I picked out 10 of them. Actually, give me 1 second. This is the folder for that week. It says the 26th, but it's really supposed to be the 19th. I got to grab the list so I can tell you who suggested this. Give me 2 seconds. It's in my desk right next door. Right here, actually, not really next door. That it? Nope, that's not it. Where the hell did it go? Ay, 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 ay. Well, I thought it was right here. Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay. And I was able to grab my coffee too, so cheers to that. All right. There we go. So, all right, this, the one we're working on today, what I thought we'd do is, I thought I'd do this F-16 Falcon with you guys today. It's a neat painting. It'll be really cool when it's done. And I'll be able to get a bunch of it done, even if I don't do the whole thing on this feed. I'll be able to get a lot of it done in about an hour, so that'll be a good one. So this one was suggested by Derek Coleman, and I didn't write the date down, but it was early in the year, like January or February, that he suggested this. I've done paintings of F-16 Falcons before, but I haven't done one in a while, so when I saw the suggestion, I'm like, that's going to be a fun one. I think I want to do that one. So I'll get you guys close and kind of off to the side, and we'll get going. So what I do is I grabbed a photograph, the photograph of the F-16, and then what I did was I kind of tilted it, and this F-16 is taking off with its afterburner. But I tilted it down. We're going to make it flying. I'm going to remove the landing gears and things like that, straighten out the flaps and that kind of stuff. Um, so it's kind of nice because it's going to be similar to the original photograph in a lot of ways, but it'll also be, it'll be different. It'll be, my own painting. So I have to. I also have the photographer of this, but that's on the other sheet. So I apologize being live and not being able to give credit where credit is due. But I did not take this photograph. It's great. My brother-in-law is a retired Navy F-18 pilot, so I have a lot of photos from him, which is nice. So whenever I have to do an older Hornet, like a B, or C Hornet, I have tons of pictures of Hornets that he's supplied. So, all right. So I'm only going to cut up 6 of those. I'll leave this page here. For those who haven't seen, I do this all in Photoshop. I'll take the image, crop it, rotate it, increase the. Actually, let me turn that on too. Let's put it. If I do this, it's going to mess up. Yeah, I do it. Crop it, rotate it, change the overall, balance of it so that it reads better. Because what happens is on a bigger photograph, when you reduce it, you have to brighten it up a little bit and increase the contrast, or else a lot gets lost when you make it smaller. So I do all that in Photoshop, and then I take out the background and stuff just so I'm not printing ink that I don't need to print. And then I put, because it's a 3x4, 6 of them will fit on a regular sheet of copy paper. So that gets you up to speed on that. I'll only cut up that other one if I need it. All right, so let me get things ready here. So we got the cutting mat here. I'll need my little holder that I had before. This, for those who haven't seen this a million times, this is just the magnetic material that goes on, the side of a car that they put vinyl lettering on or something. So I just have bits and pieces of it, and I just put photo corners on it, and that holds the paper in place. So there you go with that. So now you guys are totally up to speed on everything. And for those who have seen me do this before, thank you for kind of having patience and hanging out while I explain everything again. But this is just really for the people who haven't seen this before. All right, so the painting, all the 543s are done on UPO paper, which is a synthetic polypropylene paper. And then I spray them all with Autoborn Sealer Gray. And this is just gray out of the bottle. I don't tint it or anything. This is how the sealer comes. The sealer is great. It comes in a number of different colors, so you can mix your own if you like to work on a colored ground. But gray works for me because all these black and white paintings, it sets up the kind of mid-tone right out of the gate. And I'll move this. So, well, actually, I'll leave it there-ish for now. So we'll zoom in when we need to. If you guys have any questions along the way, please let me know. And I will be glad to answer those. So I sprayed this out, and I buy this stuff in big sheets and then spray it all out and then cut it up. So when I'm spraying, sometimes there's little, chunks or hairs or things that get in it. So I don't take care of that when I first spray them. I wait till I actually get the piece. It's just easier to kind of do them on the fly than to have to monitor each bigger sheet and try to get all these off. So I just grab an old X-Acto knife blade, and I just kind of run around and just lightly scratch at those, like that was a hair. There's another hair right there. And then, any little bits that might have got through the gun. I spray these with a Iwata LPH 80 with a 1.2 tip in it. So that's nice because I can reduce the Autoborn sealer the way they suggest, which is really nice. Makes this stuff bulletproof. This stuff is really strong. It really adheres to that surface and works well. Cody Adams, what's up? Welcome. Yes, to all my UK friends. Again, for those who don't know, this is why we started this one in the afternoon, because I have a lot of people from the UK watch on Monday night, but it starts really late for them. We start at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 11 o'clock at night their time. So I decided to do this feed, my second feed of the week, earlier in the day so that the UK people could properly hang out and not be like up until 2 a.m. So cheers to that. All right, so that's all done. The next thing I do, and I bragged about this Scotch-Brite pad last week, and then I promptly lost it. So I should have kept my mouth shut. So this is almost a brand new piece of Scotch-Brite. It's roughly about 800 grit if you match it up to sandpaper. But when it's brand new, it's like, it's thick and it's stiff and it's aggressive. The piece I had was really nice. It was really old. It was soft. It was 800 originally, but it probably was knocked down to 1,000 grit from being used so much. But it was perfect. So that's the Scotch-Brite I would use to do this next step. But I'll use the new one, and we'll try to get this one to the same level of coolness as the other one. So I just kind of run around the whole thing, and what this does is this gives it a very even surface if there was something that wasn't quite even when I sprayed it, and it will also heal up those little scratch marks that I just put on by cleaning up the bits and pieces. So it just gives me a really even, consistent surface all the time. Like every time I do one of these 543s or anything, I could spray the stuff. In fact, the ornaments have a base coat sealer white on it, Autoborn sealer white. So it's the same thing, exactly the same prep, and that stuff sticks to everything. But what's really nice, and I talk about this in the YouTube, one of the YouTube Tech Tuesdays about this stuff, it just gives me the same exact surface no matter what I'm painting on. I could literally paint this stuff on anything, paper, metal, plastic, and then when I'm done, when I get it all prepped, it's exactly the same surface. When I start painting on it, I know exactly what I'm going to get. So, and South African people, yes, Franz, absolutely. What time is it there now, Franz? Are you guys in close? How different are you from GMT, from Greenwich Mean Time, plus or minus? I don't know my that side of the pond time zones very well. All right, so let's get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the background. These 543s are designed to be pretty quick, so I try to keep them under 2 hours, and that way I can offer them at a decent price without, I mean, if I spend 18 hours on this, it's not, it's going to be a whole different animal. So these I try to limit. So one of the big things I can do to limit the amount of time I spend on this is simplify the background. So these backgrounds usually pretty simple. 8 p.m. Okay, well, that's not too bad. So you're only 2 hours off from the Brits. Perfect. I'll move this up a little bit so that way you can see it and I can keep kind of everything on the board. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to cut out the jet, and by cutting out the jet, I use that jet as a mask on here when I do the background. So start with that. Other than that, like I said, some of this isn't going to be very exciting, so I apologize in advance. But if you have any questions, or like I said, if you see something going on and you want some clarification on it, please let me know. I'll try to narrate as I go in case there is something. The knife stuff, I mean, I cut out a lot of stuff, and now it's become second nature for me. But it is really a cool skill to have down, to be able to cut, quickly and accurately. And one of the only things I can tell you is it just, the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's pretty much like everything. So, when I started way back, when I started cutting Frisket on illustration board, I look back at my paintings from way back then, and I was digging into the surface. I was cutting through the masking and all the way down into the illustration board and leaving this massive groove. So I look at it now and I'm like, man, what were you doing? You're just like hammering the thing. So it does get better. It does get better. All right, so this, let's see, how do I want to do this? Do I want to? Yeah, I might as well just, all right, I'll cut it out. So this elevator right here, the horizontal part of the tail is really, really thin here. You're looking at it almost straight on. So what I was kind of going back and forth with in my head was, do I even want to cut this out? The reason, I'll show you when I spray why I would maybe not want to cut that out. because what'll happen is it'll leave a little shade, a little shadow of paint or lack of paint, and I'd have to fix it in the end. So it's a kind of a catch, not a catch-22. It's kind of a thing that just kind of gotta think of. So basically, when I'm looking at these things, if there's anything really super tiny, like when I get to it, like the antenna on the back here of the plane, I'm going to leave that off, because it's not going to do any good to cut it out. It'll just actually cause problems. So the fuel tank here. The gear doors you can't see, which is nice, so I don't have to cut them off. I would if I could see them, but the front, I just dumped them all over the floor, great. The front gear door is actually hidden by the fuel tank, so I don't have to worry about that. But that's a little adjustment that I would have made as I go. So it's little Sidewinder missiles here. I will cut these out, but I may not put the fins that are on there. Yeah, I'll cut them off. So I can always add, same thing with the fins. If they're too small, if they're just, I mean, I could cut them out. It would actually work. I'll do that here. So I could cut these fins out, but honestly, when I go to spray it, there's going to be spray that goes underneath them anyway, and it's going to fog them all up. So this is the intake right here for the motor. Like the antenna, the little, I don't think this is a pitot tube, but the antenna on the front of this jet, I'm not even going to worry about. So I just, instead of trying to cut it out. The other cool thing with jets too, especially the F-16 has this bubble canopy. So for the canopy, I'm not going to cut out the canopy at all. I'm just going to cut out the pilot here. So I'm going to pretend like the canopy isn't even there. I'll show you. That'll make more sense when I get to the canopy, because obviously it's clear, so you can see the background through it. I do this with cars too. So I'll cut out all the windows and leave the glass out. What else we got here? Nothing. Goes right to the back. Excellent day. Should use a straight edge here, but oh well. What could go wrong? Lee Jordan, what is up? Good evening, Lee. So the F-16 is one of my favorite jets. Primarily, or no, exclusively an Air Force jet. A lot of fly-by-wire on this jet. Been out. I wish I had all the details on it right at the top of my head, but it's been active for quite a while. It's been the go-to fighter. It's smaller and more nimble than the big F-15. Single engine, so that excludes it from being a Navy jet, because the Navy boys and girls love their jets to have two motors, two engines, so that if something goes wrong, they're not stuck. So, sorry, I'm picking up stuff off the floor. There we go. Nice, much better. Just a killer jet. It's made for air-to-air stuff, where the F-15 is kind of an all-purpose interceptor and can be a bomber and all that stuff. This is this can certainly do a lot of different jobs too, but it's made to go after other planes. Okay, so I think I've got the whole thing cut out. Now you notice that it doesn't come out because there are a lot of little hinges holding it in, but that's okay. I don't mind that, because this is going to help me place it. So would have been a bit earlier, but I had to warm up after being out all day on the bike. 2 degrees. What? Actually, we are finally warming up here, which is nice. I shouldn't say that. It's December. I'm kind of being spoiled, but yeah, it's 50 here, which is nice. Not Celsius, Fahrenheit. Oh, I didn't do that. Okay, I gotta do this first. So first thing I gotta do before I do that is I gotta tape the border around here. I got into the habit of doing this way back in school. I always had a border on, I'd always tape a border on whatever I was working on. With these, it doesn't overly matter because they're designed. I make these. they're 3x4, but this sheet is 4x5. So there's a 1/2 inch border around the whole thing. But this just helps kind of, I don't know, it cleans it up. I just like it. Like I said, I wouldn't really even have to do that, but it's something I like to do. All right, so this is 1/2 inch gold FBS tape. So what's nice about it is, again, I've built in a 1/2 inch border around the outside edge. So what I do is I give myself a little bit extra on the top all the way around. So I'll flip this over to show you. Actually, I won't do that yet. So what I do is I stick the tape on there, but I let it overhang about that much. Not anything specific, just kind of a general overhang. And what that'll do is that'll make this panel slightly larger than 3x4. So when someone goes to put a mat on it, like me, it isn't exactly 3x4, because if it is and the mat is off at all, you'll see a little, gap there. So by adding that little extra, it's just insurance that the mat will cover the whole painting. So that's what's up with that. Like a border, exactly. It's funny because when I got a bunch of the gold tape, and I got the 3/4 inch because that's usually what I end up using a lot on a lot of different things. So I ordered the 3/4 inch, which is this one. So I was doing the same thing with the 543s. I was, kind of using the 3/4 and wasting half the tape, or, a bunch of the tape. And then I'm like, dumbass, they make a 1/2 inch tape. So, so that's how that went. And now you notice I left this one up a little bit here. So I'll show you that when we're done, why that is. It's just neat when you go to pull the tape off, it all comes off as one piece, which is lovely. So there's that one and that one, and that's it. And what I'll do real quick is I'll just trim off that extra because it gets to be annoying. Sticky everywhere. And for that, did I already lose it? I already lost it. What do you know about that? When I go to cut the tape off the border, oh, there it is. I'll just use that same old X-Acto blade because the new X-Acto blades, I need them to be really super sharp to be cutting all those stencils out. So I just grab the old ones to do stuff like this, to utility type stuff. I have a whole, like what I do is I have a bin right here next to me because I go through a lot of these blades. So I have one of the little bins and it's got all the used blades at the bottom. I save them because when I'm cutting mats or doing framework and stuff like that, it's just nice. Those blades are really, really sharp. Even the tips, they're not sharp enough to do these cuts on the templates, but they're certainly sharp enough to do all kinds of other stuff. So I just hold on to them. All right, let's get this off. And I seem to have gotten some sort of dirt on here too, so I'll take care of that now. All right. So to get that, whatever that is off, oh, it actually looks like a scratch. It looks like a scuff right there. So I'm going to, instead of messing with an eraser, which would have been one thing to do, I'm just going to grab that, Scotch-Brite pad and hit it again as soon as I can find it. Somewhere around here. Oh, here it is right here, where it shouldn't be. All right. So this way I can just kind of get rid of this. So what I've found is, like any kind of surface that you're painting on, I try really super hard not to touch the area I'm going to paint with my fingers, because of the grease and oil will leave a fingerprint and then that will resist all the paint. And inevitably it happens. I mean, I'm handling this stuff, but I try really hard not to. All right, so now it's ready. Now it's all set. Let's back you guys up a little bit. So it's ready to go now. Move this here. Now this sits right in these. These on the magnet sheet, these are just photo corners that I use for framing too. So I just dropped them on there and they're ready to go. Oh, right. Okay. Background. So now those are I just drop in these little markers for the corners. Now obviously they won't line up because again I gave myself a little bit of a border, but as long as I center that, that's going to be all right. And then I use these magnets to hold this in place, and then I can start removing the background. Like that. Yeah, you'll see what I mean about the even this wing too. The back end parts of this might be too thin. I can't hold that down with a magnet. Should get you guys closer again. Oops, sorry. Sorry. There we go. I sound Canadian now. There we go. All right. So now what I got to do is I got to pull the background off. So most of the times those tabs that are holding them are really just tiny, tiny bits of uncut paper in the corners. Sometimes it's a little bit more. So, you know, I have my knife right there if I need to like finish a corner or something, like right down here. This guy right here didn't get cut all the way through. So I just kind of click that. And just remove that like that. I save all these so in case I need to do something else, so I put these aside. Actually, I save all of them, so even after the painting's done they go in a folder, so they all get saved. And then this is the last chance for me to check the like the composition and everything. And looking at this now, I don't really like that he is going straight from corner to corner like this, so I'm gonna rotate him a little bit so that he's a little bit less of that. So he's more like this, and that's just better composition. So if I left him corner to corner, it would divide this whole painting in a weird way, almost in an uncomfortable way. So now that I have him kind of aiming out here, and the afterburner will kind of come out off to the side, that'll be a lot nicer than if it's diagonal to diagonal. So, all right. I like it. I do need a magnet up here though on the nose because I'm going to have a problem there. So the next thing I do when I start thinking about the background on these simple paintings is I look at how it's lit. What I kind of want to do is I want something dark behind something light and vice versa. So if it's dark, I want a light behind there. If it's light, I want a dark behind there. So a lot of these cars, and mostly a lot of things really, are lit from the top anyway. So what I tend to do is I have a darker area up at the top and it fades to a lighter area down the bottom. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So that's a little bit of depth to it. But it's not like me painting in clouds or the ground or, something complex, which would happen if it was a bigger painting, like a painting that wasn't designed to take an hour. So I'm going to grab white to start. If at all possible, I try to do the white first because then I don't get any blue shift if I'm putting black on white. If I put white on black, that's when you get that weird blue shift. And then I'm also going to use my super expensive hold down tool, which is also a piece of bamboo meat skewer that costs you like $1 for a bag of 100 of them. So I just cut them and then sharpen them. And then that's what I can use to hold these little bits and pieces down. So I'm going to start in the corner here. This is opaque white from Createx, the Wicked colors. And this one is reduced 1:1, and I'm putting it through a 0.3mm gravity feed airbrush. So I like 1:1. It still has a lot of opacity to it, but it also sprays really cleanly too. Meaning it doesn't spit, it isn't real grainy, which is nice. Now, again, so you can see how this Sidewinder missile here is like sticking up. That's what I'm talking about. If I go and spray on this, paint is going to get underneath. So sometimes I just leave them off and then just paint the object after. But in this case, I think I can get away with it. Same thing with this wing and the elevator in the back too. Okay, so that's the first pass on that. So now I'm just going to brighten this up. This will be almost white down here, like full saturation. It's neat because it gives it a little bit of movement without really having anything there at all. If I could have got away with it, to do that same fade but this way, like so that the fade is going this way and the jet's going this way, that's really a neat kind of setup. It works really well. I try to do that with cards a lot, where the background is opposite direction of the foreground, and that works well. In this instance, I can't really do that, but it still works. This will actually add a lot of speed by having both the fade and the jet going in the same direction. All right, so that is that. I'm going to leave the white in here. So this, incidentally, is this is a Krios PS289. So a new brush for me. So I'd heard a bunch about them, and I was placing an order with Spray Gunner in Florida, and I figured it'd be a good time to try one. All right, so for the black, what I'm going to use is this is just a custom Micron B from Iwata, and with this I'm going to use a mixture of 10 to 1. So this is going to be a lot thinner than what I just sprayed. This is 1 part opaque black to 10 parts 4011 reducer. So just going to drop some paint in there. And this spray is really, really fine. Like I couldn't use this mix. I could use this mix in the bigger Krios, but it would just hose it on. Because this airbrush has such a small nozzle in it, that really super thin paint still atomizes really well. Doesn't spit, but it's nearly invisible when it goes on, which is really what I want, because you can really control the spray and the fade, which is nice. So the white is on there, but it's really the darker color that will produce the fade. Because again, because the white doesn't spray as well across the board as the black does. So I let the black do the heavy lifting with the fades. I don't want to go too dark. I don't want this to seem like it's night. I just want to give a little bit of a bump to that background. Add something here and here. So that's kind of what that does. Cousin is bringing in Krios for the weekend from the U.S. Also bought it spray gunner. Yeah, Franz, they're cool. They're great brushes. They're German. They're Japanese built brushes as well. They're just a solid all around brush. They have a bunch of different models too, which is kind of neat. All right, so that's the whole background. So you can see why that saves a lot of time. Again, if it was a painting, like the bigger painting that I'd be spending a lot of time on, there would be a background, something, whatever it would be. In this case, it would probably be cool to have like the ground behind it. It'd be like this guy would be, really motoring to get at a lower altitude. But for this one, again, it's designed to be real simple. Yeah, they are good. They are good indeed. I wonder if I get this at a little bit better angle here. Probably not, huh? It's probably as good as it's going to get without being in the way. All right. So next up, this didn't happen like I thought it would. It happened a little bit here. It's probably really tough to see. So what happens a lot of times when you have the magnet on holding the template down, this is what I was talking about with that shadow. So essentially you create a reversed shadow. The paint hits the magnet and then gets blocked from going onto the surface, and it leaves a little lighter area. It's happening right there. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. So that happens a lot when you have a small item like this, like over here, like the wing and the bits and pieces on the sidewinders, the little fins on the sidewinder missiles. So that's kind of what it was talking about when I would leave a small item out, because sometimes it's more work to fix it. It'll leave that halo around it because it'll pop up and block the paint. Then it's worth. But in this case, it worked out pretty well, so we don't have that going on. All right, so moving right along. Next thing I do is I hit the lighter areas, the white areas. Yeah, okay. So for that, and you'll see when I cut them out. So any of these top areas, I want to say top plane of the shape, but I don't mean the plane of the plane. The top of the wings, the top of the fuselage and the nose are all really bright. Of course, the afterburner is white as well. So those will all get cut out. And this is a chance where I can fix the flap here. The flap is down. You can see that little section there. So that's aimed down as it's taking off to give it more lift. But if this guy was really in flight, flying with his afterburners, that's going to be straight across. So I got to fix that too. Super easy to do, and you'll see how I do that in a second. All right. So I'll move this up so you guys can see what I'm cutting. All right. So Magnum? It sure is. All right. Put this here. Try to get a little bit of everything. That's going to work. Okay. So start off with the obvious things. Like the top of this wing over here is bright, really bright. So we're going to grab that. The Sidewinder here, the missile on this wing, I could cut it out, but I'm going to leave it because a lot of it, there is a bright, nice highlight on the front of it, the very tip. But I'm going to do that after because it's more important that I get the wing in than worry about like if I cut both out. All right, so the motor itself. So for the afterburner, I'm just going to cut out the whole... Wait, do I want to cut out the whole thing? It's a good question, too. No, I'm not. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the brightest part right here. And I'm going to cut out a second stencil after for you know, this area here and then the actual exhaust of the afterburner. So cut out the actual brightest part here. I was going to do this in color. Sometimes I pick one part of these paintings to do in color for these black and whites, and that would have been a great thing to do, but I don't have the time right now, so we're just going to do it in black and white. Okay, so this elevator here has a nice fade on it, but the very tip of it here is very bright, so we're just going to cut that whole thing out too. I talked about this on this week's Tech Tuesday, and so what I'm doing right now, this is kind of what I was talking about. These, by cutting out these shapes, it acts as a real nice drawing guide for this, so I don't have to draw the F16 onto the paper first. I can use these shapes to kind of do the work for me. All right, so let's straighten out this missing, or the flap here. So we're just going to run right across and pretend this guy was here all the time. So essentially we'll just raise the flaps on this. Again, if I already took out the landing gears when I cropped it, you can see the front landing gear right there a little bit. I would have taken out the gears and stuff if I didn't do it in Photoshop first. Alright, the body is a nice highlight on the top here, but it also fades really nicely too. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm not going to cut out the whole body. I'm just going to cut out part of it, and then I'm going to fold this over a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. So I just want this edge, but I want a little bit of a fade on this too. Get you closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's really bright, but it also fades right into the body. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of, I made that cut in it, but now I'm just going to roll this whole thing over to get it out of the way. So I don't want to cut out the whole body because then I'll get into getting close to this wing. So that's just all I need. I just need the top of that body right there. The same thing with the nose cone of the plane. It's really, really bright here at the front, but then it fades back into the, you know, the body. So all I'm going to do is just cut out the nose and fold it back like that, and that'll work. This Sidewinder over here though, this missile right here, the nose cone of this is right in my face, so I can cut that one out. That'll be white. That'll work. I think that's good. That's all the white. For now. Yeah, because the next one I'll do the exhaust, the afterburner exhaust. Alright, so let's switch this back. I'll keep moving things. It's easier than shifting you guys around. So I'll put this back here. Alright, so now I still have white in the brush from the background. I generally only use two brushes when doing all this stuff. Oh, that's right. I'm like, why isn't this lining up? The corners are all wonky because I rotated it and I forgot. All right. Like, it's not lining up, but that's why it's not lining up, because I already moved it. All right. So I just line up the nose here, and then it's an area on this side, like the wing, or, something. It doesn't really matter as long as it's on the right-hand side. Just line up something on the left and something on the right, and then that pretty much lines up the whole thing. Like that. Okay. I really did rotate that. That's cool. Okay. I mean, that doesn't it rarely happens. Usually when I rotate them all in Photoshop, that's about where they stay. But in this case, it just looked bad. So here in South America, I can only get the 270. That's, from what I hear, is a really nice brush too, though, Franz. So, and like I said, all those, I love Japanese-built brushes. That's my first brush was an Iwata, so yeah. So I mean, I knew that I'd feel real comfortable with that. The one thing I noticed about this, and I mentioned this somewhere in one of the feeds, one thing that took a lot of getting used to with this brush, one, it has the angled air valve, which doesn't seem like it makes a big difference, but what does make a difference is the distance between the trigger and the front of this brush. I'll back up a little bit. If you compare it to the Micron, so if I do this, it's like a whole head longer. So that took a lot. It was weird. It was like I was sitting in the back seat of a car driving the first time I used it, because I was so far back. It was an odd feeling, and I'm like, wow, it's really bizarre. You get used to it, but yeah, that's one thing I did notice right off the bat. It is different that way. All right, which I need that brush, so let me grab it. Yeah, Franz, that's really it. The shipping is expensive right now. You probably pay as much for the shipping as you did for the brush if you had it shipped. I use the post office, the U.S. post office, for most things, and even I mean, but getting stuff out of the country is crazy, and plus all the customs and duties and all that. So, like I said, you probably pay more than what you paid for the brush. All right, so I got 1:1 white in there, same thing. So now I'm just gonna develop those fades that I noted earlier, starting with the nose. Just start in the very tip of the nose cone and just kind of fade it back like that, and then now I can just kind of cover that up too. It's on the way. This whole wing is all one value, so I can just really lightly go over it. Just it's all light strokes with it because the paint is so reduced. I have to build it up slowly, but by doing that, it also gives me a ton of control over that spray as well. So I could run it right out of with this airbrush, I could run the opaque white right out of it. It would be pretty thick. It would be very opaque, which is what it's designed to be. But this just gives me control. So I'd have to go over it a few times to get it covered, opaque. But when I get to deal with stuff like this, like on the back of the jet, where there's a slight fade to it, that would be really difficult to do with unreduced or slightly reduced paint. Even, they recommend 10% generally. 10% is tougher to get a fade out of than what I have here because this is so reduced. So again, it just boils down to being patient with it. So that'll give me that fade. All right, so what else we got? There's another fade here on this elevator here. So I'm going to move this magnet because I've already painted that. Same kind of thing, the tip of the wing, just like the nose. Start with that, build it up a little bit, and then I can put in the rest of the fade as it fades to the body of this shape, like that. Of course, the engine itself is completely, actually, move the magnet again, this is completely white, so I'll just build this up. Some tip dry here. So it takes about, 10 passes to get it totally white, instead of like the one pass it would take if it was unreduced. It would literally cover in one pass. It's that opaque. So I got that other wing now, and so now I've got all the white bits and pieces in. Ordered a Sotar 2020 just before COVID lockdown. It took 1 year before I received it. Jeez, yeah. It's not, I mean, it's just the way, especially around COVID, things just didn't move during COVID anywhere. So that's, yeah, that's pretty much everywhere. All right, so there are your white bits. Pretty easy, right? All right, so one more thing. So now I'm going to get the, oh, I should have brought that dark down a little bit more for the afterburner, but that's okay. So now I got to get the inside of the turkey feathers here, the cowl here. Because I did that separate. What I also can do is I can do that other missile that I left out. So I'll do those two things real quick. I'm going to slide this guy, or I'm going to move this so I can just do cutting here. There we go. Yeah, I'm lucky with these paintings. Like if you guys are international and you're on my feed on Monday and you win, even if you're international, I can still get those paintings to you because these things are small enough to still go first class mail, which is lovely. So I can track them and everything, but they don't have to go parcel, which is a whole different animal. So I'm fortunate with that. If a painting like the razor blade painting, if that sells, that has to go parcel. So that, or that has to go in a box. So it's difficult sometimes, or that's a whole different animal. All right, so what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out the whole thing. So I've already painted the inside here, the hottest part, but it's just as easy to cut the whole thing out than have some kind of weird if I misalign it. So it just helps out a lot by doing that. Clean up this circle a little bit. And then as far as the actual afterburner, I'll do that freehand. I'm not going to cut out a stencil for that because it's the way it is. Oh, Franz, thank you. Thanks. I'm glad. So throw this aside. Oh, Sidewinder. Yeah, that missile. Sorry about that. Frog in my throat. Yeah, the missile itself. So the missile has the same thing. It's got this nice fade on it. Even though the very cone of this missile is white, it's got this kind of fade on it. So I'm just going to cut out the whole front of this missile. And I'll fade it. Or I'll show you what I'll do with it. Okay, so there we go. And I know I've talked about this before. I've just fold that up like that. And whenever I see that, like it's just folded, that always indicates to me that I have a fade going from the edge of the cut towards that fold. And it's just a mental reminder. Now on this template, there's only 2 items that I've cut out. But on some templates, I'll show you. Let's find a good one here. I'm not going to show you this image, the painting itself. This is all done. But I'll show you one of the templates because I don't want to ruin the surprise for the Monday Nighters. But a template like this, you see all the cuts on this one. So when I have a whole bunch of cuts and there are a lot of fades in them, it's that having little bits and pieces folded up to remind me it works really, really well for me. So yeah. But it's only one like this. I mean, I just get into the habit of doing it, but I wouldn't have to do it on this because, like I said, there's only one fade on this. All right, so now we line it up, and now lining this up is easy because I've got the motor already there. So I just have to line up the nose first, and then just make sure the motor is in the right spot, which is that. And double check on that wing, like that. And I just need magnets around here. All right, so this is fun. So what I'm going to do here, let me throw that there, is there's a slight kind of a fade from the outside edge to the inside, which is unusual. You would think it would be just the opposite. It'd be brightest near the business end of this, but it isn't. It's actually out near the edge. So I'm going to just fade that in from the outside in. Like that. And then I could do this missile. So for the missile, the nose cone of that missile is white, and then there's a fade on the rest of it. So I'm just going to take one of these shape templates. This one's from Air 6 Stencils. I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to kind of use one of the curves to put that nose cone in. And then I can fade the rest of the top of the missile from there, just to add that highlight on the top of the missile. And then real simple, I just got the kind of the best of both worlds there. Just nailed it. Did you do the tip of the missile? Hopefully you saw that, Cody. I just did it. Oh, did I do the lower one? I did not. Good eye, Cody. Cody nailed it. So I missed the lower one here, the starboard side one. Good eye, Cody. So now, if I miss something on a template, this is the other one, the white one. Now it's super easy because I can see through everything. So I just line up what I already painted. And then that'll be in the right spot. So missing something or reusing a template is actually pretty easy. But I do need to be careful of those because I rotated this. The bottom now is exposed right here. And if I hammer that with white, I'll get a little bit of overspray line. So I'm just going to drop a piece of paper on that to help that out. Let me see if we can get a little closer. There we go. Yeah, good job, Cody. And this one here is just white, so I'm just going to paint it. Perfect. That's going to work. So now all the white is in, which is nice. Like that. Oh, no, it's not in. I got to do the actual afterburner. So the afterburner is nice. It's afterburners look. It's an oscillation. I'm not exactly sure what causes it, but it's always the same with afterburners, and it has this pulsing that comes out of the back, which is a blast. So I can do that since it's really soft and fuzzy. I can do that with just freehand. So the thing about this is too, this is almost being redirected. This jet was still the main landing gear, the back side of it was still on the ground. So this afterburner is being directed, like redirected up almost, like at an angle, not severely, but so what I got to do is I have to straighten that out too. If I followed this exactly, if I cut it out, it would be wrong. So I'm going to straighten that out now. So what I'm going to do is level out. It's going to look, well, no, it does look right to you guys too. All right, so I'm going to level the plane out essentially, so I can see the front of the plane and the back of the plane, the nose and the the nose and the exhaust, and that's kind of the line that I'm going to use. Now, it's not the motor actually is below the fuselage. It basically, the fuselage sits on top of the motor. The intake is here, so that's really, I'm looking underneath it a little bit to get that line, but and just start in the actual motor of it. Make sure this is going to spray for me first. This paint, because there's so little of it, is starting to dry in the brush. So if it's going to be cranky, I'll try it here. If it's going to be cranky, then I will I'll put in new paint. And it doesn't hurt to do this too. So there's a little plastic ruler here. So I'm going to line it up, especially now because I don't have a lot of the jet painted, so I want to make sure I get this in the right spot. So there's the intake in the front. It's really hard to see, but you'll see it when I paint it. So I line the center of the intake up with the center of the motor, and that gives me the straight line, and it's on kind of a weird angle. So from there, I'm just going to slide this down to here, and then just drop a couple magnets on the ruler. Now I have a visual guide with this ruler, so I keep things straight. So first thing I'll do is just kind of get the overall blast of the afterburner. And there are two plumes really. There's a upper one and then a lower one, and really it's all part of the same cone, but because it is a cone, you see the top and the bottom of this exhaust. The middle is the least amount of whatever it is, flame or whatever. So it's really the top and the bottom that you see. There we go. So we'll put that in, and now I can put in that oscillation, which is mainly just those, the repeat of the roundness of that opening. And like anything with this stuff, less is always more. So I'd rather have less of it on there and then have to add it later than to put too much of it on and have it look goofy. So that's good. That's where we're going to leave that. What I should have done before I did that was paint that back elevator, but oh well. I can I'll figure that out. Oh boy. All right, next up. So now that I've got the light areas in, the next thing on these 543s is all the really super dark areas. Um, and that's the order of business with these. It's always background, lightest areas, darkest areas, any of the fades, then paintbrush, maybe a little bit more airbrushing, and then they're usually in the bag by then. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the white, but now do this with the dark. Just going to cut out all the bits and pieces. I'm also going to keep an eye on the time too. It's 2 o'clock. Okay, so we've been going for about an hour. I think what I might do is I might go for another half an hour with you guys and then probably call it, just because there is so much going on right now. I love doing this, but it also, this painting, which would normally take me about an hour and a half, is going to take closer to 2 hours if I'm talking about everything. So, so I have a goal that I kind of set for myself today, and in order to hit that, I got to get a few more of these done. So I may cut out a little bit early. All right, so everything that's dark, like dark, like completely black, not, you know, like the fuel tank underneath here is really dark, but I'm looking for anything that's really just black, essentially. I'll get the, you know, the fuel tank and the other, you know, darker stuff. I'll get those on the next pass. Pull all that out. Nice. Yeah, Franz. I don't know. When you get into it, I mean, I'm sure any, yeah, I don't know. Like, I have the brushes I use all the time that I love, you know what I mean, that I can't live without, but that doesn't stop me from, like the Krios, it doesn't stop me from seeing some. Like I was just telling Bill Kennedy from the airspace, the next thing I got to get is one of the new Infinities. Not necessarily new, but one of the Infinities. I was watching Svi Wheeler last Saturday, and his go-to brush was always, you know, his Infinity there, the one he wore till it was broken, or used till it was broken. So I've always wanted to get one, but I know that's going to be the next brush. Again, I don't expect it to replace the Micron, the B. Ah, crap! I didn't mean to do that. Not paying attention. So what I'm doing is I'm talking and I'm not paying attention. So what I do is I cut out that neat dark shape, but I left the flap down right here. So I got to fix that. It's not a huge thing because it gets cut out anyway. If it was something was being left in and I forgot it, that would have been a different deal. So I just end up cutting it out. And I noticed it on because you can see the flap on this one too. So I got to remove that. Oh, you know what I did? Oh, you guys. I left a flap down on this wing. What could go wrong? All right, so we can fix that too. Let's fix that now before I forget again. All right, so first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this dark area, and then we're just, since we have the white still in the brush, we're going to fix that. Because if this flap was down and he had his afterburners on and this flap was up, he would be spiraling to his doom, and we don't want that. So there we go. So now that flap is up on this wing. Let's fix the other one. I'll show you how I'm going to fix it. So, yeah. See that big gap right there? That's the other flap down. So I could cut out the template and then just kind of, you know, paint it in. So there it is right there. Yeah, I think that's bright enough. If this was a fade like this, I'd have to deal with this a little bit differently, but this is pretty bright opaque white, so that's a good thing. That's actually going to make this repair really easy. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut this template, the white template, correctly the way it should be. And it helps to use the same template here because I don't have to reline something up. If I recut this wing and something is slightly different about like the top side of it, it's going to show. So I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, first thing I'm going to do is cut the end point though, because I can't really see it because of the white overspray that's on here. So now I don't have to worry about it. Now when I cut this out, so this piece comes out, and that's the piece that I missed. Sorry for the distraction. No, I love it. Honestly, I mean, what just happened there happens a lot, especially when I'm goofing around with a photograph, which I do a lot, change a photograph. There's a lot of chances for something like that to happen. Okay, so now I just reline this up. I'm going to get you guys in close for this because this is fun for the repair. Now normally, with this being pretty much opaque white, I could just keep spraying over and over this and it would catch up. But I'm gonna treat this like it was, a little bit more of a sensitive repair. Let's see if I can get you closer. Like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the white. I'm going to spray on the part that I missed first, and I'm just going to spray on that until it gets close to the white that's in the back that's already there. And that way I kind of build this up, and then it all works. If this wasn't, like if I was trying to repair up here, right here, where it's like a not quite opaque white, if I just nailed it, you'd see it. So again, this is almost opaque white, so I could really just hammer the whole thing until it's all caught up, but this will just save a little bit of paint too, as far as having a ton of paint on this other wing. So I just kind of spray along that edge and let the overspray kind of obscure that, the line where it was. And then once I get it close, then I can go over the whole thing. This white is just about done in this brush. It's starting to set up and not want to spray, but I can get the repair done before that happens. Maybe. So when you guys see this painting on whenever I post it, I don't know if it'll be this week. No, it won't be this week. You actually will see this when I'm away on the week of the 19th, I think. Or the 26th. This will either be 19 or 26. But when you do see this, you guys will know all the trials and tribulations that happened with it. But there it is. So now that wing's all fixed. So, okay, good. Teresa, what's up? All right. So now all the white's done. Let's get back to it. You guys think this is easy. It is actually, can be easy. It's just I'm excelling at making this difficult right now. All right. Honey Rivera, what is up? All right. More darkest areas. So the intake of this. Not only is this jet just iconic, like this jet here reminds me a lot of like how beautiful the P-51 Mustang was. Is still, I mean, for the ones that are flying, it's just, I mean, it's like they cared what it looked like, and that's not always the case with military equipment. Military equipment is 100% functional first, and then form follows after, if ever. And the Humvee is a good example of that. Now, of course, the Hummer's become trendy, or well, not trendy because it's still popular, but you know what I mean. It's not a particularly attractive vehicle, but it's become very attractive to people. So, but also, again, like I said, totally form before, or totally function before form. So the F-16 seems like it's form before function because it is just, it's beautiful. And there are a lot of jets like that. The French seem to care a lot about how their jets look as well. It's nice to see. Where you look at like for the Navy, the A6, the Intruder, it's not a really good looking plane, but what it does very, very well. So, all right, so now I'm cutting out those, I'll flip it over so you can see it. Now I'm cutting out those little fins on the missiles because these will paint in really well. So the canopy, right around the opening of the canopy, is really dark too. So I'm just going to grab that. And a lot of these things, like, it's nice to be able to figure out really what's going on there. And in an instance like these 543s, in a lot of instances, it's fun not to care. Like, I'm just going to paint what's there, and I'm not going to try to figure it out. So, like usually in most jets, this canopy is the same color as the body, so it shouldn't be this dark. But in this case, I don't care. Yeah, honey, this is I mentioned this earlier, and I before you got on. Um, since I'll be heading back to Massachusetts on the 17th or 18th, and I'll be there for a week, I'm going to try to get all the 543s done for certainly for the 19th feed, but my goal is to have enough for the 26th feed as well. So that way, if I get hung up and end up doing the feed from Massachusetts on the 26th, I'll still have all the paintings done, which is nice. So this one was, I think I said Derek Coleman, who suggested this F-16 back in like January, February of this year. I think that's everything. No, a little bit more over here. Okay, the little winglets of this missile too, the Sidewinder here. Could get those in too. I've already got, since I decided to start doing these 10, this is the fourth one out of the 10. So I will definitely have all 10 done before I leave. But I also have to start Mondays because I have all the suggestions for Monday. So I have I have to do 5 of those too. So I have to do 15 before I leave. All right, here we go. So now I think I got everything. Yeah, whatever this is too. Little detail here. Oh, Franz, I hear you. I hear you, man. You know, it's and I can relate because I've been there. You know, working a 9 to 5, or no, I shouldn't even say that because I mean I've worked everything, 9 to 5s, mornings, nights. I've done it all. To have motivation after putting in a full day for whatever that full day is, whether you're even a stay-home parent or whatever, you have a full day and you're wiped out at the end of the day, and now you have to go and be creative. I can totally relate. So all I can say is just whenever you can, all the time, whenever you can motivate yourself. Even if it seems like it's only 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it's so worth it to do. It just keeps the ball rolling, even if it doesn't seem like it. So, all right, bunch of magnets on this. So again, this is black. Now I have that really thin black in here in the Micron. I'm not going to use that because it's just going to take too long, but there's not very much in there anyway. So I'm just going to spray that out. Bill, there we go. I know, Bill, right? I was just talking about you. Yes, this is a motivational channel, so you're smart enough, you're pretty enough, and gosh darn it, people like you. So what I did was I just put in 1-to-1 in this, so it's it's 1 part paint to 1 part reducer. I can't think straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a copy of this nearby, which I usually do. Come on. Yeah, I'm going to grab a copy of this just so I can kind of see what I'm looking at in case there are any fades that I need to be aware of. In this, remember, I cut out all the real super darkest areas, so there really aren't, but like when the fuel tank, when I get to that, I want this reference photo there so I can see it, so I know that it's not just solid black. But in this instance, most of everything I cut out is solid black. Oz, yes she is. She is something else. In between saving lives. Alright, so what's nice about the 1-to-1, even though it's super reduced, it's violently reduced, through this brush, it sprays like it's not reduced at all. It's completely opaque. It's awesome. So um, again, I talk about over reduction all the time. Any kind of reduction you do with any kind of paint is, and Bill hopefully will back me up on this, the reduction is dependent on the brush you're using, not the paint. So if you have a really super detailed brush, it doesn't matter what paint you put into it. It has to be thin to perform the way that they intended to perform. So so that's especially true with this brush. It's a picky brush. If you put stuff that's really super heavy into it, it's not going to spray. And it's not designed to. It's designed to work with real thin stuff. Now, that being said, some paints don't like to be reduced or perform better if they're not touched. And then that's a whole different thing. Then you have to match the brush to the viscosity of the paint, which is rare. I don't know too many paints that will fall apart if you do anything to them. Most paints you can mess around with, but all right. So again, real light passes. Even though this is an aggressive paint as far as the opacity, I want to build this up. I want to hit this over several passes, so I just don't run the risk of getting any wet paint underneath the stencil. Steve, it's between post office in the morning and fire department at night. I'm surprised I'm still up right sometimes. No kidding. God. All right. So what's nice about this stage, once the lightest lights are in and the darkest darks are in, the painting really starts to come together fast. Certainly when I get the next stage in, but now you really start to get to see stuff. Stuff starts to make sense. All right, so at this point now, there are two ways to go. I can do a lot of the paintbrush details on this, or I can do the grays. And I think I'm going to do the grays since there are a lot of them. And yeah, I'm going to go for about 10 more minutes, and whatever this is, it is. But hopefully you've seen enough of this, certainly after this next stage, that you get a feel for how these things come together. And again, if I wasn't talking and doing all kinds of other stuff, a painting like this would probably take me about an hour and 45 minutes. In this case, it's going to take me about 2 hours and 15 minutes-ish, maybe 2.5 hours once I hang up on you guys. But you get the idea. So what I'm going to do, since I still have to do like some of the really dark areas, like the fuel tank, this other winglet underneath, I'll do that. I'll do that stuff now. Yeah, I'm just checking to see what else. The body and stuff. Yeah. Okay, I think I got it now. So let's move this out because I'm running out of room here. I mostly create text illustration paint, some local drawing inks for some practice and basic Wicked colors. Yeah, then you're all set, Franz. I mean, the illustration colors, as far as reduction in illustration colors, I heard from, I'm hearing out of students that have been to Drew Blair's that Drew uses just water with the illustration to reduce it, and it works really well. I don't use the illustration a lot, so I don't really know. But if that's the case, then that will work out really well for you using illustration. You never have to get reducer. You can just always use distilled water or something. But I'm not 100% sure about that. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let me get this stuff in here. So the fuel tank, which is, yeah. Come on. What's up with that? There we go. What I miss? You should get Dennis to send you a set of the neutral grays while they maintain. You should only buy them if you're a little lazy. Yeah, you mean Steve Gibson set? I do have a set of those, if that's what you mean, Bill. But again, I don't use the illustration colors a lot. So, I did a painting with them. And essentially, well, actually, come to think of it, the A10 on the razor blade was done with Gibson's gray set. And the other thing is I mean, you would think, yeah, with all these 543s, a gray set would be perfect. But the funny part is I don't use any grays. I just use black and white. So, all right. So we have the other little part of the fuel pod there. Oh, that is, so this right here is yeah, it's the one of the little winglets on the back of the missile. All right, what am I missing? Did I get those? No, I didn't. I'm going to grab these two. These, where the engine cowl sections, this whole thing on this engine can squeeze tighter and open up wider, which is really cool. So that's what these little divisions are here. So I'll put those in too, since I've got them in here. Yeah, it was funny because I was talking to Chris Arpin, and he had sent me the set of Gibson's paints, and he sent me, which is very generous, he sent me 16-ounce bottles of them. And I'm like, you know this is going to last me for the rest of my natural life, the way I paint. Oh, wicked. That's awesome. That's really cool, Bill. I didn't know that. Yeah, that might be something I would grab if they had the Wicked set, or like a gray tone set in Wicked colors. It's not. It's funny because I used a lot of illustration colors because I specifically like the colors. What I run into with it, with a lot of the super miniature paintings that I do, it's a lot of reapplying paint over paint. So I need that paint underneath to be completely bulletproof when I go to do that. And the illustration paints are designed to stay open a little bit so that you can rework them. And that's something that I found that was a kind of something that would move me away from using them, and that's kind of how that happened. All right, what else am I missing? That did I get those? I did get those. Oh, this one here. This little. I should have really got all the specific names of all the bits and pieces of this jet. I don't know what these little winglets are underneath, but yeah, 16 ounces, Bill. It was funny. I mean, like I said, it was completely generous of them. I was appreciative, but at the same time, I'm like, what am I going to do with all this, like, number 4 gray? So what I'm going to do here, the bottom of this, where the intake is on the F-16, is like a smiley shape if you're looking at it head on. So the bottom is rounded. So I'm going to cut out this whole intake right here. I've already painted the top of it, but there's a neat like shadowed fade on the bottom. So it's the same thing as when I painted the white with the motor. I'm going to take out that whole piece because it'll help me line it up and also make it look more continuous. I think that's all for the really dark stuff. Or medium dark stuff. I'm just kind of looking at the painting, see if I missed anything, and I don't think I did. I think we're good. So now painting this one. Now I still have 1-in-1 in the brush. I can control that, especially with this darker gray, but what I don't want to use that 1-to-1 for is like the shading on the top of the fuselage where it's really soft, and it's even got these, you can see it's almost like tiger stripes where the metal panels are. I wouldn't want to do that with the 1-to-1 just because it doesn't spray as nicely if it's full blast. So but for this stuff here, the underneath stuff, the real darker stuff, I can certainly use this 1-to-1 for that. So just line this up. This is, again, it gets easier to line these things up as you go because you have more bits and pieces already done. Throw a few magnets on this. I don't need to go any crazy. Although I do order opaque white and black in quartz, so because I do go through a lot of that. You wouldn't think so, but even with the small paintings. But I do 5 of these a week, and then there's a lot of call for just the black and white stuff. People see the 543s and say that's neat. Could you do something, but maybe 8x10, but the same style, but just put more into it. as far as time goes. So I do use a lot of white and black, which is nice. All right, so the fins on this Sidewinder here are black, so do that. So we'll hit everything that's really dark first, which that's it. All right, so the bottom of the fuel tank is dark underneath where it's in the shadow, almost black. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the 1:1 even though the Micron is kind of grainy. And when I say grainy, it's because when you reduce it, I mean, it's not really super grainy, but when you reduce it like 20:1, you can't even see the droplets of paint. That's how fine it is, like how subtle the fades are. But with the 1:1, you can actually see the droplets of paint. So that's kind of what I was talking about, being grainy. It's really not. Like if for any other, any other application, this would be beautiful. It would be totally smooth. So, all right, so I think I can get away with doing the fade on the front of this engine intake too. So I'm just going to start like the same thing. Start at the bottom, hit that, and let the overspray do a lot of the work. That is good. All right, so this guy here is not black, but it's pretty dark, so I'm just going to kind of do the same thing. It's not faded or anything, so I'm just going to kind of go over it really lightly a few times and get it down to a decent darkness. What I am going to do is I am going to put a little bit of a shadow underneath this stabilizer where the stabilizer is casting on it, and that'll give it a cool thing. Bill Sensi with 2-ounce bottle. Nice. I love me my 2-ounce bottles. I do. Yep. So the only ones I would consider buying bigger is like red oxide. I use a lot of. You can see this bottle's almost empty. Red oxide I use a lot. Obviously white and black. I'm trying to get into using the opaque colors across the board as my primary palette, but there aren't very many colors. And like for instance, this yellow is a long way to go from this to say my go-to yellow, which is yellow ochre. So I use yellow ochre a lot. So to get this to perform in the same way that this one does is a lot of work. You have to add a lot to get this not to be brilliant yellow like it is. So I'm having a tougher time using those as my base colors. But Blumber too, yeah, Blumber's a very, very popular one. Although, like I said, I'm not surprised, but pleasantly surprised that my use of Blumber has gone way down since the new opaque black has been introduced, because the new opaque black, I've said it before, is a really warm black. It's really like a Blumber. It's black, but it still has a lot of warm overcast to it. So I find I don't have to reach for Blumber as much as I used to when the black was a real bluish black. All right. So that's it. So now that's starting to come together. I'll tell you what, it's 2:29. I was going to stop at 2:30. Let me get this next stage in, and this painting will almost be done. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to finish it with you guys because I really got to turn and burn, so to speak. Not to steal a jet term, but what I'll do is I will do the top of the fuselage with you guys right now, so you can get a feel for the next step, and then I'll probably call it there so I can get cracking here, because there is a lot of ground to cover before I leave. All right. And again, if you would like this painting, if you are interested in this painting, this will probably be, well, definitely be either the live feed on the 19th or the live feed on the 26th. I'm not sure which one yet, but it will be one of those. So if it's going to be put out there on the 19th, you need to be on Monday Night Live's feed this week, on the 12th. So you would make a suggestion for painting, and then you would be eligible to win the following week, which is the 19th. If it's going to be available on the 26th, then you need to be on the 19th, so you can do the same thing. So you may make your suggestions on the 19th, and then you're eligible on the 26th. Hopefully that makes sense. If it isn't chosen, if someone wins and doesn't choose this painting, it'll go on the site with all the others, and all the 543s that I do from suggestions are always discounted 50%. So they are automatically discounted on the site. Now, the nice thing is, too, the sale that's running will actually work on the discounted paintings. So you would get this painting for stupid money if it makes it through the gauntlet of not being picked. It's like an encore, yes. All right, so what I've done while I was yakking was just cut out the top of the fuselage here. So notice I cut out the whole thing again because I want to be able to see where like that white fade is. I want to be able to see that so I don't crash into it, or that there's a hard edge there like I masked off. So what I'm mostly concerned with is getting paint underneath the top side of this. So I got a lot of magnets on the top and magnets on the top of the wing where it's white there too. Here I don't really, it doesn't make too much difference because if I get a little bit of underspray right here, the bottom of the nose here, it's black. It's not going to show up. Same thing right here. It's black underneath, or it's almost black underneath that. So I don't have to worry about underspray there. I really just want to protect the brightest parts. All right, so I am gonna clear out the brush though real quick because I don't want to use the 1-to-1 for this. I'm going to use the 1-to-20. So just going to clean out that. I don't have to completely flush this out like crazy flush it out. I just have to get the paint out of it because obviously I'm using black again, so it's not like it's going to contaminate it. But I do want to make sure I get all the chunky, thicker paint out. After all the American videos, I have to sit and convert the fractions and measurements from impaired to metric. Franz, that's the beauty of this. So here's the thing. When I say, now, if you go back on Tech Tuesday a couple of weeks ago, I do the mixology one, where I show how I mix these, like how I get the values or the amounts. It's 1-to-20, but in whatever you want to do. Like I use grams for this, but it doesn't matter. It's the parts that you wanna work with. So if you do like, well, it's a lot, but if you do milliliters, if you do 1-to-20 milliliters or ounces, if you do 1-to-20 ounces, you're going to get the same thing. It's the volume that makes a difference. So I do it by weight. It should be done by volume. But I work in such small quantities. It's difficult for me to do it in volume. So if you do use like 1-to-20, and you do it by volume on a big scale, it's going to be a different mix than what I have here, if that makes sense. It's going to be slightly off because the reducer doesn't weigh as much as the paint. So for me, when I weigh this out at 1-to-20. And if you did it by volume, the paint would be a little bit heavier, so you'd have a little bit more paint in it, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's how it works. All right. Fun. Speaking of that, that's the one I needed. Yeah, Franz, that jewelry scale is the best thing I bought. I use, like I said, I use a food scale, the bigger food scale for like mixing clears and things like that, because that goes up to like 11 pounds or something crazy. But it'll measure in grams. But for doing this mix in a small like 35 milliliter bottle like these, you can't get it. I mean, you'd have to mix up a ton of paint to get it to work if you're mixing up grams of paint. So that's beautiful because it's hundreds of grams. It's easy to do the math too. All right, so there it is. This is the 1-to-20 mix. Now what I can do is I can just start painting in the fade that's in the body of this jet, and you can. Hopefully you can see it. Like at this fade, I can't see the droplets of paint. It is so fine, and that's because it's reduced so much. And that's beautiful. So I use this 1-to-20, this ultra mix on shading on faces, like when I'm doing portraits. I'll use this mix because it's nearly imperceptible. I don't want to use this mix like if I'm painting in the dark areas. It just takes way too long to develop it. I could, if I keep putting this on over and over again, I can develop it down to completely 100% black. But it just takes forever. Because it's not meant to do that. It's meant to be the color that you, or the value that you shade with. Now, a word of caution as you guys are watching this, guys and girls. I'm able to reduce this paint like this because it's the new opaque paints from Createx. It has a different binder in this paint than all the other lines. So it stands up to this kind of reduction. I couldn't do this with Wicked without adding 4050 to it, which is a whole other video in itself, the reduction of that. But just so you know, when you guys are messing around with this, the only way to really reduce, like you couldn't, I don't think you could reduce illustration 1 to 20 and have it not fall all apart. Like I said, I don't use it, so I don't really know. But that's what I'm assuming. All right, so I've got the basic fade in here now. And see how I use this is kind of what I was talking about with last week's Tech, or this week's Tech Tuesday with the template. That cutout has nothing to do with I'm not painting any of the edges with that. I'm using that to figure out where to do all the shading. So it acts as a drawing guide more than a template. All right, so for the details in this, like those ribs that are in the body, just do those next. So same thing with this 20 to 1, it works really well for stuff like this because I can get in real close and I can get these, you know, just imperceptibly small fades and details, and it just works well for this kind of stuff. And I'll just fade that on the front. Now the front cone has a, I don't want that one. I keep grabbing this. So when I'm looking for little, you know, like this is the one of the, I think this is one of the Air 6 stencils. So I'm looking for this. I always accidentally grab the Drew Blair one, and this is a great template, but I don't know if you can pick it up. But the edge, he calls it an organic edge. It's like a rough edge. I always grab it when I'm looking for like a smoothed edge one. So, all right. So I want to add that, just like I did with the missile, I want to add that kind of cone in the front. So I'm just going to pick a part of this template. Where is this? It's just forward of the canopy. Gonna get some of these magnets out of the way. It's forward of the canopy. It's right about here-ish. Like that. So for this, I'm just going to spray, I'm actually spraying the template. I'm not even spraying the painting. I just want an indication of that. I don't want to hammer it. So that, I sprayed that with the overspray, which is nice. Gives it a nice feel. All right, so I'm going to show you what I got here. Hopefully that'll make sense. Oh yeah, Tommy sent, Tommy sent me a bunch. Actually, what he sent me a bunch of were a lot of the texture stencils, which I really love from him. This is a splatter one from him. It's a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, he's got some good ones. And then I don't have it here. I did last week's demo with his fiber one, which is a lot of fun too. I just love that all these people are coming out with these cool, crazy templates. But there you go. So that's what we got. So now what's going to happen from here is I'm going to do the rest of the shadowed areas, like the top of the stabilizer here. Like I'll do all that darker gray to get that the right color. Any of the, like the shading on the missiles and all that, I'll cut all that out and do all that next. And then finally what happens is any of the, like the hand painted details, like these little antenna, I'll put 543 as the jet number, and I'll change the designation and the squad. I think this is French. There's a French flag on that. No, I'm sorry, it's IA, so that's the U.S. And then, you know, any of the little other bits and pieces, the pilot and all that fun stuff, those will all be done next. But that's kind of how it goes. So there you go. All right, I'm going to switch you guys around. And there you go. So thank you for hanging out with me on this Thursday again. Yeah, the schedule looks really good. The only thing that suffers when I'm away is this YouTube video. Your YouTube channel, to do a video from a mobile device, you need 1,000 subscribers, and I'm close to that, but I'm not quite there yet. So I can go live, you know, from the computer, but I can't go live from a mobile device like I can with Facebook. So that kind of excludes the live feeds when I'm away on YouTube. But I will have Open Studio every Wednesday, even when I'm away. I kind of preload those. I do those in advance. And then I'm going to try to get all the Tech Tuesdays done as well, so that you'll at least have Tech Tuesday on Tuesday and then the Open Studio on Wednesday. And if you need your live feed fix, I will definitely be doing the Facebook ones on Monday night. So that's what I got. So thank you all. You guys are amazing. Thank you for liking and subscribing and clicking the like button, and for following, all these other people like Bill. It just it means the world to us that put the time into these, and put them out there. Super happy that you guys enjoy them. So thank you, thank you. All right, don't forget the code. Go buy stuff. Makes my life easier. Allows me to do this crazy stuff, and that's what I got. All right, so have a great weekend. Love you guys all. You guys are great, and I will catch you guys on the next one.